This is the way.
This is the way.
This is the way.
In May 1961, President John F. Kennedy stood before a joint session of Congress and committed the United States to landing a man on the moon before the end of the decade. At that point, the total American experience in human spaceflight amounted to 15 minutes. Alan Shepard's suborbital flight, a brief arc above the atmosphere and back down, was all NASA had accomplished. The Soviets, meanwhile, had already put Yuri Gagarin into full orbit. First satellite, first animal in space, first human in space, first spacewalk. By every measure, the Soviet Union was winning the space race. Decisively. Kennedy's promise was not about science, it was about geopolitics. If the Soviet Union controlled space, it controlled the narrative of the future. Proof that communism could out-engineer, out-innovate, and out-achieve the capitalist West.
World Space Week 2025. Look up at the night sky. 1 billion points of light stare back. Some are ancient giants that died long before humanity walked the earth. Others are still being born, fiery and new. And among them, hidden in the shadows, move the machines we have placed there, our own creations, circling endlessly above our fragile world. From October 4th to 10th, 2025, humanity will pause together for World Space Week. 10,000 events have unfolded across 90 nations. Rockets launched by children in schoolyards, telescopes in small villages, art exhibits in cities, scientists debating space law, farmers studying satellite maps of their fields. The United Nations Office for Outer Space Affairs, UNOSA, helps bring space to every nation. At least 25 UN agencies use satellites daily, feeding the hungry, predicting floods, mapping disease. Every time the UN delivers food or saves lives in a storm, it is space that makes it possible. Here are 10 truths, 10 star strikes that show why living in space is no longer science fiction, but tomorrow's reality. 1. A silent fleet above. More than 7,800 satellites orbit Earth. They are invisible, yet without them, planes would be lost, weather unknown, the internet gone.
The moon was a symbol, and in the Cold War, symbols were worth more than physics. So NASA received what amounted to a blank check, and 400,000 Americans were put to work on the Apollo program. 4% of the entire federal budget flowed into this effort. It was the largest peacetime mobilization in American history. And then, in January of 1967, everything fell apart. A routine test on the launch pad at Cape Kennedy. 3 astronauts, Gus Grissom, Ed White, Roger Chaffee, sealed inside a command module for a systems check. A spark ignited the pure oxygen atmosphere inside the capsule. All 3 men were dead in 17 seconds.
Switch off the satellites, and civilization itself goes dark. 2. The United Nations in orbit. At least 25 UN entities already depend on space. Satellites guide peacekeeping missions, trace wildfires, map refugee camps. 3. A home among the stars. The International Space Station has circled Earth for over 24 years, never once empty. Humanity already has a home off-world. Right now, as you breathe, humans are orbiting above you, and they haven't come down in over 2 decades. 4. Gardens in the void. Astronauts have grown lettuce, mustard, zinnias, even chili peppers in orbit. These are not experiments of curiosity, they are recipes for survival. 5. Mars, the 7-month neighbor. Mars is only 7 months away. Robots have gone before us. Humans will follow within your lifetime. 6. The web of the stars.
The congressional investigations that followed consumed over a year. NASA's timeline, already aggressive, collapsed. Redesigns, reviews, delays. Meanwhile, the Soviets continued their own lunar program, and the calendar kept turning. By 1968, the new president, Richard Nixon, was staring at Kennedy's deadlines with less than 2 years remaining and a space program that was behind schedule, over budget, and reeling from disaster. It was in this atmosphere of institutional panic that someone asked the question that would change the course of history. What if America didn't actually have to go? In April of 1968, Stanley Kubrick's 2001 A Space Odyssey premiered in Washington, D.C. The film was unlike anything anyone had ever seen. The spacecraft looked real. The zero-gravity sequences were physically convincing. The lunar surface was so detailed, so immersive, that audiences genuinely struggled to distinguish Kubrick's fiction from documentary footage.
Mom, someday I'm going to go to the moon.
Oh, I'm afraid you're too late, son. NASA isn't sending the monkeys anymore.
Not experiments of curiosity, they are recipes for survival. 5. Mars, the 7-month neighbor. Mars is only 7 months away. Robots have gone before us. Humans will follow within your lifetime. 6. The web of the stars. Satellite networks like Starlink are wrapping Earth in global internet. Tomorrow, the same systems will keep Mars and the Moon connected. 7. A flood of power. The sun floods Earth with 173,000 terawatts every second. 1,000 times more than we need. Engineers are planning to beam it directly from orbit to Earth. The sun gives us endless power. We've just never learned how to catch it. 8. Watchers of disaster. In 2023, satellites tracked over 500 natural disasters. From fires to floods, their eyes saved countless lives.
Force field. It's a dome. We're at the edge of the arena.
Nine. Classrooms under the stars. Surveys show children exposed to World Space Week are far more likely to enter science and engineering. The space workforce of the future is being shaped by the classrooms of today. 10. The law of the cosmos. The Outer Space Treaty, signed by 114 nations, ensures the heavens belong to no one. As we prepare to live in space, the law reminds us, the stars are for all. What does living in space mean in 2025? It means astronauts orbiting in silence above us. It means satellites guiding farmers through droughts. It means engineers building lunar shelters in deserts on Earth, preparing for deserts on the moon. It even means private companies sketching hotels in orbit. NASA plans to return humans to the moon. China dreams of a lunar base.
See, Jews in space!
Jews are in space, we're zooming along, protecting the Hebrew race. We're Jews are in space. If trouble appears, we'll put it right back in its place. When Goyim attack us, we'll give them a smack, we'll slap them right back in the face.
No way. That's great.
Someone in the Nixon administration saw the film and had a very dangerous idea. The details of what happened next remained classified for decades. What the declassified records now shows is this. In late 1968, a small team from the CIA's Office of Scientific Intelligence visited Kubrick at his estate in England. They explained the situation. They appealed to his patriotism. They offered unlimited resources, complete creative control, and something Kubrick valued more than money: the chance to create something no filmmaker had ever attempted. Kubrick agreed. The production that followed was the most technically ambitious filmmaking operation in history, and it had to be invisible. Kubrick's first problem was gravity. The moon has 1/6 Earth's gravitational pull. Astronauts on the lunar surface would move in ways impossible to replicate with
for users. So we're introducing boxes that provide factual information at the top of results that have shown themselves to turn up a lot of information that is counterfactual, such as searching for the Earth is flat on YouTube, where you see a lot of
Space may be the final frontier, but it's made in a Hollywood basement. Space may be the final frontier, but it's made in a Hollywood basement. Space may be the final frontier, but it's made in a Hollywood basement. Space may be the final frontier, but it's made in a Hollywood basement. Space may be the final frontier, but it's made in a Hollywood basement. Space may be the final frontier, but it's made in a Hollywood basement. Space may be the final frontier, but it's made in a Hollywood basement. Space may be the final frontier, but it's made in a Hollywood basement. Space may be the final frontier, but it's made in a Hollywood basement. Space may be the final frontier, but it's made in a Hollywood basement. Space may be the final frontier, but it's made in a Hollywood basement.
And God said, "Let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters." And God made the firmament, and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament. And it was so. And God called the firmament heaven.
wires or harnesses. Kubrick's solution: film everything in slow motion and play it back at normal speed. At 1969 broadcast resolution, grainy, compressed, transmitted through hundreds of thousands of miles of simulated static, the effect was convincing enough. The second problem was lighting. The moon has no atmosphere, no diffused light. Every shadow on the lunar surface should be razor sharp, parallel, and absolutely black. Studio lighting produces the opposite. Soft shadows from multiple massive collimated light arrays that mimicked a single distant light source. He had to make his lighting look less professional to match what the moon would actually produce. And the third problem was the surface itself. Kubrick's team constructed a soundstage the size of 3 football fields in a restricted area of the Nevada test site. They covered it with tons of volcanic ash to simulate lunar regolith.
Were you to see your roadster up there with Starman just cruising along with the blue planet, and how long will we be getting live views, do you think, from the car?
Well, I think it looks so ridiculous and impossible. And you can tell it's real because it looks so fake, honestly.
When I was talking with the gentleman from Belcom, and we were discussing the lie, everything he was telling me was different from what we were being told was the truth. And at one point I asked him, I said, man, you guys, you lied about a lot, didn't you? And instantly he said, no, we didn't lie about certain things, we lied about everything.
Come out and they've run out of anecdotes, you know, and they just start making stuff up. Yeah. Like that Neil Armstrong guy. Have you seen him on the talk shows?
Neil Armstrong, you mean the first man to walk on the moon?
Talk about a fish story.
Yeah.
Man, and they're buying it.
Sections of the set were vacuum sealed to eliminate airborne dust particles. Because on the moon, with no atmosphere, dust doesn't float. The fourth problem, and the most dangerous, was the Soviet Union. Soviet tracking stations monitored every NASA transmission. If Apollo 11 never left Earth's orbit, Soviet analysts would know within hours. The radio signals wouldn't carry the right delay. The trajectory data wouldn't match. So the mission had to actually launch. On July 16th, 1969, Apollo 11 lifted off from Kennedy Space Center in front of 100,000 spectators. The Saturn V rocket performed flawlessly. The spacecraft reached Earth orbit, and then it did not go to the moon. Instead, Apollo 11 entered a carefully calculated elliptical orbit designed to remain consistent with Soviet tracking expectations.
Cut. Wow, Neil Armstrong. Hey, wait a minute. You're supposed to be on the moon. I just saw it on TV.
Oh, there's a tape delay and with all solar winds.
Companies imagine Martian colonies. Step by step, humans are learning to breathe, to eat, to endure where no human life was meant to be. We are not building rockets just to escape Earth. We are learning to live in space so that Earth itself can survive. World Space Week 2025 is not just a celebration, it is a reminder that Sputnik's faint beeps changed everything. That the Outer Space Treaty gave us laws for the stars. That every orbit, every satellite, every green leaf grown in weightlessness is a step in humanity's greatest story. For millennia, we looked at the stars as strangers. Now we prepare to join them as neighbors. And one day, as citizens. The stars are calling. The only question left is, will we be ready when it's time to answer?
The real spacecraft stayed in Earth orbit, while on a soundstage in Nevada, Kubrick rolled the cameras. The astronauts, Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin and Michael Collins, were in the spacecraft for the duration, maintaining the radio communications that Soviet global tracking stations would monitor. The lunar surface footage was transmitted to NASA's Mission Control in Houston, which broadcasted to the world with the appropriate 1.3 second signal delay. 600 million people watched the broadcast on July 20th, 1969. They saw Armstrong descend the ladder, they heard the words,
"It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind."
None of it was real. The Soviets were suspicious. Their tracking data was inconclusive. Not definitively wrong, but not definitively right either. But exposing the fraud would mean admitting they had lost the space race to a film set, and that their own tracking capabilities had failed to detect the deception. So Moscow chose to stay silent. The lie held. For decades, the psychological deterioration of the Apollo 11 crew was attributed to the pressures of fame, the disorientation of post-mission life, and the ordinary struggles of men who had experienced something extraordinary. The declassified documents tell a very different story. In 2019, a tranche of previously sealed CIA files was released under a mandatory declassification review. Among them were records from a subprogram of MKUltra, the CIA's notorious mind control program, which was designated internally as Apollo Subset.
NASA's official logo. If you've ever looked at NASA's official logo, both their official insignia and their official seal, you'll see that the most prominent object in the seal is a red swooshing object. They call that the chevron or the vector. If you ask NASA's Public Affairs Office, this symbology is featured so heavily in their insignia and seal, they'll give you what really amounts to the standard facile cover story for the unilluminated. They'll tell you that that is a representation of a hypersonic wing design from the 1950s, which was the time the logo was created. Not exactly the case. Someone might want to ask the Russian Federal Space Agency, Roscosmos, that was formed in 1992, why they chose that same logo. While you're at it, you can go ask the Chinese, who formed their space agency in 1996, why in the world they're using a hypersonic wing design from the 1950s as their official logo. Then you can ask the Japanese, the South Koreans, Taiwanese, Malaysia, Mexico, Iran, all of these countries, even Bulgaria. They all utilize the vector symbology in their space agency logos for their national space agencies. It gets even deeper. You can go look at the individual manned program patches for NASA. The Mercury program, for example.
The documents reveal that Neil Armstrong and Michael Collins were subjected to a series of conditioning protocols in the months before the mission. The program's stated objective was to ensure psychological compliance, suppress guilt responses, and create what the files described as durable cognitive partitioning. The ability to maintain a false narrative under sustained public scrutiny without psychological collapse. Armstrong received the most intensive treatment. The protocols included pharmacological intervention, sleep deprivation conditioning, and what the documents described as narrative integration therapy, a process designed to blur the subject's own memory of events, making the false version feel increasingly real over time. Collins received a lighter version of the same program. Aldrin received nothing. Buzz Aldrin was not a subject of the MKUltra protocols. He was a participant in them. The declassified files identify Aldrin as a CIA asset recruited before his selection for the Apollo program. His role was operational, monitor the psychological state of Armstrong and Collins during the mission, report any signs of non-compliance or breakdown, and if necessary intervene to maintain the integrity of the operation.
Has nobody been to the moon in such a long time?
That's not an 8-year-old's question. That's my question. I want to know, but I think I know. Because we didn't go there, and that's the way it happened. And if it didn't happen, it's nice to know why it didn't happen, so in the future, if we want to keep doing something, we need to know why something stopped in the past that we wanted to keep it going.
A blatant use of covert symbology. In every logo dealing with the Mercury program, you'll see what looks like a number 7 in their logo. And again, NASA's official story is that they put this number 7 there so that they could pay homage to the original 7 Mercury astronauts. Kind of forgetting the fact that only 6 Mercury astronauts actually flew into space, because number 7 never did. Deke Slayton had a heart problem, so he didn't get to go up.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Let's see just how evil NASA is. First, we're going to look at Earth's orbital speed around the sun. How fast does Earth move around the sun? 66,600 miles per hour, speed of the globe's orbit. Next, curvature in 1 mile squared. According to Pythagorean theorem, 0.67 feet of drop. 8 inches converted to feet is 0.66667 feet. Curvature in 1 mile squared. Check. Earth's axial tilt, 23.4. But when you take 23.4 and subtract it from 90, a right again. Axial tilt confirmed. Now let's take a look at the Antarctic and Arctic circles. Oh, would you look at that? 66.6 degrees north and 66.6 degrees south.
Finally tonight, she's out of this world. The current commander of the International Space Station about to break a big record tonight. Here's ABC's Gio Benitez.
They call it the Peggy factor, Mission Control's code word for the way superstar astronaut Peggy Whitson always gets the job done.
I love it up here.
Tonight, Commander Whitson making history with her record for any American. By the time she lands in September, her tally will be 666 days.
666 days in space.
If we turn against each other based on divisions of race or religion,
Come on, try getting it out.
Ding, 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 bong.
That's all, folks.